What do you want me to do? Speak a few words. I think I spoke too much this morning. My voice is less than this morning. How's that? There's a few words. The first time I heard Srila Prabhupada speak was at the university where I was attending school. And the second time I heard Srila Prabhupada speak when I was living in a temple, New York temple, and Srila Prabhupada was coming to visit. And I've narrated this recently, but it's a nice Prabhupada story. In those days, this was 1970. 1970, there wasn't TSA, which meant anybody could go anywhere, at least in America. And so we did. We went to the gate where Srila Prabhupada was arriving, and there were quite a number of devotees, a few hundred, because devotees had come from all over the place. And we were sitting down, having soft kirtan, and then when people started coming off the plane, the kirtan got a little louder, and devotees didn't sit down anymore, they stood up. And then Prabhupada came out of the plane through the system at that time was they didn't have jetways, you had to walk from the plane up a flight of stairs and then into the terminal. So he came through the gate. And kirtan went wild, and so did the devotees, and gongs and cacophony of sound, and devotees offering garlands and throwing flower petals and accompanying Srila Prabhupada. I didn't know what the plan was, but I found out quickly there was a prearranged interview with some reporter, newspaper reporter or some reporter. So Prabhupada was escorted to a lounge. He sat down, everyone sat at his feet, and the reporter said, "Swamiji, you've come to this country from India. You have many followers now in America. There must be some message that you came to deliver. Would you like to share with us what is that message for the world?" He held the microphone. Very simple, Prabhupada said. "I've come to teach you who you are. Because you have all forgotten." I just went into Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. And I don't recall much more than that. I recall that simple introductory message. which was the intention. There's a child making more noise than I am. Can something be done? That's the little one that's making all that noise. He's dressed so nicely. The dress doesn't make the man. Because my voice is so bad, I'm going to try to say things much shorter than I would if I had a stronger voice. Prabhupada came with a message. Message is revival of Krishna consciousness. Message is the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The message is take shelter of the holy name, the purification that comes to one who sincerely takes shelter of the holy name will awaken self-realization and God realization very quickly. Very quickly is relative, but it's also absolute. Very quickly means in comparison to other processes, very quickly means considering the number of not just years, but lifetimes. We've been wandering through so many species of life, so many attempts to find happiness. Stubbornly continuing anyways, even if it doesn't happen. Very quickly, the process of bhakti acts because it acts directly on the soul. Prabhupada writes in the second canto Bhagavatam, just like medicine that's injected intravenously and once acts on the whole body. So similarly, this process, bhakti, at once it acts. Just as our discussion this morning, he's the Supreme Pure. And by contacting the Supreme Pure, we become purified. So Prabhupada came to give the process of self-realization. But self-realization is incomplete without God realization, or there is no such thing really as self-realization without God realization, because who we are is part of Him. How can we understand who we are or realize the self without our connection with Him? It's only imagination. So very quickly, then the process acts, and that's not all. That's just the beginning. The awakening of our dormant Krishna consciousness has a beginning, and it has an intermediate phase, and it has its end or its conclusion. And even the end or the conclusion isn't static. I remember Tamal Krishna was asking Prabhupada a question about rasa without the detail of the question. Prabhupada's answer was, devotional service is not static, it's ecstatic. In other words, there's ever increasing connectivity beyond anything that we could close our eyes and imagine. Is way beyond, way beyond, way beyond, way beyond. Keep going, it's way beyond that too. And that's the gift that Prabhupada wanted to give. It's the gift he wanted to give because it's the gift that Bhaktisiddhanta wanted to give because it's the gift of the Acharyas. It's the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Love of Krishna, love of God, as the residents of Vrindavan alone know love of God. That's what he wanted to give. How we can even imagine what that gift is. But the giving of the gift was in full knowledge of what was being given, and it was with full compassion. Just recently, I came across a series of quotes of Prabhupada speaking about how difficult it was to give that gift, even the beginning of that gift, to new people. Then what to speak of taking the new people to the intermediate phase and to the advanced. Many quotes. He specifically, at least at that time, when he was in Hong Kong, where he spoke about his American and European disciples, he said it's very difficult because they don't accept anything on say-so or face value. They want to know why, and so many. That's not bad. It's good to ask. But so much energy, Prabhupada, he's saying in Hong Kong to whoever is being interviewed with, he used at that time 2 tons of blood for every one. That's big transfusion. His audience was the world. Prabhupada said in another conversation, one cannot expect very many disciples, but I have 2,000. And it's all by Krishna's mercy. Krishna has sent them, more or less. He didn't use those words. Krishna has sent them. And Krishna sent them to assist him in his mission. He spoke like that, to assist him in his mission. My Guru Maharaj has sent all of you. So many amazing, just like this, whoever wrote this little introduction, so many amazing devotees with amazing talent. Amazing devotees with amazing talent. After this weekend, some of us, temple presidents and GBC, could that door be closed? And if the noise continues, it'd be nice if the child goes somewhere else. It's just distracting. So, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, some of you from Chicago, you were here for the Prabhupada Vyasa Puja event when he was visiting to have a liver transplant. And he spoke, and amazing devotee. So he's just written a book on his experiences with Prabhupada. And he's going to do the Shama Sundar show for the temple presidents and GBC. He's just one of so many amazing. So Krishna sent, or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sent to Prabhupada so many amazing devotees. Amazing. One story. I was in Austin, Texas, visiting for book distribution and meeting students and getting some gathering together when there wasn't a center there so many years ago. And one experience was a group of 3 students who were in the art department during the time Prabhupada was visiting in Dallas. And they said, "Do you know Professor so-and-so?" I said, "No." He was a guru on campus. He had so many followers. They use the word guru. He had so many followers. And Prabhupada came to the campus, he heard Prabhupada speak, and he just left everything. He left his profession, and just became a Hare Krishna guy at the Dallas temple. And then he headed up, some art activities and something. I don't even know who that devotee was. I don't know his initiated name or anything. Just, so many amazing people. From the university that I went to school, where I first heard Srila Prabhupada speak, there were about 30 devotees that became leaders in the Hare Krishna movement from that one university. I could start saying the names and you go, what? And how did Prabhupada do this? I'm just telling Prabhupada stories because it's nice to tell Prabhupada stories. When Prabhupada began at 26 2nd Avenue, there was one man who lived in Buffalo, and he developed an attraction for Prabhupada, and he said, "I'll fund a center in Buffalo if you'll send somebody there to start a center." So Prabhupada turned to Rupanuga, who was a social worker by his occupation. He's one of the few people that had a job, and was a contributing person to help cover the storefront rent, but Prabhupada immediately turned to him and he went. Long story. But Prabhupada was, when Krishna sent some opportunity, he immediately accepted the opportunity and was guided. There's so many stories of how the London deities were secured, long descriptions of opportunities that were presented. He was filled with adventure, just looking for where's that opportunity where Krishna wants me to be and give. But he said even to make one devotee, it's very difficult. So he made a lot of devotees, but not all of those devotees stayed on. Like we tried to do a database of how many initiated disciples of Prabhupada and where are they. We don't even know. But in short, among those luminaries that became devotees, some are still practicing and some are not. So it makes one pause and think, I've heard worse. It makes one pause and think, gee, if Srila Prabhupada attracted so many, of course, I've met many that didn't become devotees. They met Prabhupada and appreciated he was an amazing person, but didn't become sadhakas, or some that became, anyway, so many things. If that statistic is there, then what about us? This nice description of the dedicated servants of Prabhupada, etc. The rate of attrition is not the same rate as the rate of joining. If you have a cell phone, just check and see if it's in vibrate mode. And if not, do the needful. Turn it off or whatever. They call it airplane mode now or something like that. The point is, from Prabhupada's own admission, what to speak of us, what to speak of y'all. It's a wonderful challenge, and it takes great spiritual strength to be able to rescue one person, what to speak of, have that one person stay on the path for the balance of their life. And when we take initiation vows, it's very clear. We're saying we're going to do this for the rest of our life. For the rest of our life. And who does anyone, beside, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, who does anything for the rest of their life? At least the eating and sleeping part. So, a lot of my attention has gone to what will help persons stay the course and reach the stage of nishta, or steady. Therefore, so many messages on that topic. The whole New Year's weekend topic, Anartha Nivritti, yesterday evening, this morning, and again, and so many different messages. There's symmetry, or there's a theme in all of these messages. The theme is quite simple. It's the theme of Bhagavad Dharma, or the theme of attentive, conscious hearing and chanting, as opposed to the mechanical kind, or just the behavior kind. Because the soul is conscious. So the soul isn't the body. The soul is conscious and consciousness. And where do we direct our consciousness? There's something, just like the question this morning, where is she showing? The question you asked this morning, even if somebody doesn't even know what they're doing or why they're doing what they're doing, but they're doing, is that bhakti? There's some submission. And for that submission, there's contact with Krishna, so it's the beginning of Krishna bhakti, because otherwise they wouldn't be doing. They had some contact with a devotee or a practitioner of bhakti, and they're doing. So there's some submission. And then continuing and continuing. And what do we need to continue? What do we need to reach the goal? I'm just sharing here that a lot of my attention has gone to that topic and trying to assist on a collective level and an individual level, because it happens naturally when speaking on these topics. awakens or gives rise to questions from individuals. There's a very becoming very popular, that's not the right word, spoken about message of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he speaks, I could read the quote because I have it here, but rather than his unique language, he's speaking in compare-contrast way. He calls platform speakers. Platform speakers, I presume, refers to in India when somebody gets on a stage or a pandal program or something and there's thousands of people in the audience and they may be able to, inspire and enliven the audience. Comparing that kind of activity, Bhaktisiddhanta contrasts with speaking to individuals one-on-one and helping an individual one-on-one to apply the teachings. Because we each have our personality, we each have our, like the discussion this morning, our gunas and doshas, our qualities and our faults. We have our personality, we have our ways of receiving, some different than others. So much depends on the receptivity, the eagerness to hear. Some persons, simply from hearing, that's sufficient. Like a light goes on. Some persons, they can hear it so many times and the light doesn't go on. So the Bhaktisiddhanta's phrase is, individual instruction is very valuable. He says it in his own way. One can be more helpful to a person in that way than the platform speaker. Now, Prabhupada did both. Obviously, he wrote books. And who were the books for? Everybody. He was repeatedly strong about it. He wanted his disciples, I've written these for you, so we can have the means of crossing the ocean of material existence. Very specific instructions. And one reads with that mood or that understanding. That's what Prabhupada wants to give to us. The instructions are there. It's not in code and you have to figure it out. It's in very plain language. But it's also for everybody. And then how to apply those to everybody. Well, Bhaktisiddhanta's expression is, when you speak something from the platform, it's not necessarily going to address the needs of everybody. So then individual instruction is also needed. Prabhupada did both. Something that I experienced after Prabhupada's departure, some of those persons that were those Maharata personalities that did enormous service, after Prabhupada's departure, some number of them, and I was surprised at the number of persons that just disappeared. Just disappeared. And without naming names, some of the other spiritual masters, my godbrothers, after they disappeared, some number of their followers just disappeared. There's some exceptions to that. I don't mind saying one of the exceptions is Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And it has to do with how, what an intense personality. But those that became his disciples largely understood that they used the phrase, and he gave me the sauce. It's like a phrase that Tamal Krishna Maharaj's disciples have used as part of their vernacular. He gave me the sauce. Like he just blasted. I was in the presence of Tamal Krishna Maharaj and one of his disciples on 2 occasions, and he just blasted them. Blasted them. I wanted to leave the room, it was too intense. But they understood that he was doing so out of love. You know, it's pretty unique when somebody blasts you, they're doing it out of love, but somehow, at least those that stayed on, they understood it was out of love. Now, there are not devotees here, I don't think, from Seattle, because Radha Krishna Prabhu is now in Seattle starting another section of Bhakti Vaibhav. But he was Tamal Krishna Maharaj's personal servant and survived for something like 7-8 years. And he shared with me some of the circumstances, and he was in tears. I mean, without the details. He was in tears. Get out of here, I don't want to see you again. For, you know, something that big. But the disciples of Tamal Krishna, this is me speaking from my experience, his disciples were well trained. Good character, they knew, you know, they had a good compass. They knew which way was north and which way was south. They knew which way to go to get to where he wanted them to go, and they're faithfully continuing to go where he wanted them to go. Very well trained, very loyal to him. And loyal to the society and respectful of other Vaishnavas. You know, very well trained. And as a result, the attrition afterwards was less. I'm speaking this way for 2 reasons. Those of us that are serving as leaders or whatever it is in our organization, particularly initiating spiritual masters in our organization, naturally are very concerned about the preservation of the society and the preservation of those who one is giving shelter to, persons who are disciples and persons who aren't disciples. Many such persons. And what's going to ensure, what to do today to help ensure that preservation tomorrow? That's why I'm speaking on this topic. My sense is few things. Emphasis on carefully, not casually, but carefully reading Prabhupada's books, or say it stronger, studying Prabhupada's books, say it stronger, systematic studying Prabhupada's books, so that you know what that gift is that he wanted to give and how to receive it. Because if you don't do that, when that physical presence part is gone, what's going to sustain you? A second is our spiritual family. Our spiritual family to me means the Sangha of Vaishnavas, not just, you know, me and my disciples, but the Sangha of Vaishnavas. And there's so many persons in a family that help hold the family together and help hold the traditions of the family and the values of the family, and not just because it's blood, but because it's value-based. So like this book that Vyasa Prabhu wrote, Our Family Business. Why did he write that? One of the things he wanted, we're using this language in our leadership, in ISKCON these days, a legacy document. So in future generations, there won't be confusion on what Prabhupada wanted, because sometimes people say other things. So what's the history of how book distribution came to what it came to in ISKCON? Not just ISKCON North America, but ISKCON. It's Prabhupada's words. Those of you from India, you know the meaning. Family business, this is our family business. In America, unless you're Italian, you don't know what that means. So-and-so brothers. And they have a plumbing business or something. But it's very clear. The volume of writing, of transcendental literature from the time of Mahaprabhu and the followers of Mahaprabhu, it's unprecedented in the world, in the history of world religion. The volume of transcendental writings, it's our and making them available to the world. My goodness, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's not just his own 100 books that he wrote, that he published. It's the writings of so many others and so many others. And Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Prabhupada. It's our family business. But our family business is not just the distribution of those books. Our family business is receiving of the knowledge that's within those books, so that the family values will continue. Question. As the years pass, this is the 51st year. As the years pass, as we get in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, is there going to be more diversity within ISKCON, the same diversity, or less? More. Those of you that live in America or work in the workplace or go to college, how many international students are there in the university today compared to a decade ago? Whew. The demographics of United States and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, it's dramatically changing. From Russia, from China in particular, the India influx into America, that's been going on. Anyway, as diversity grows, what's going to maintain the unity? Answer: clear understanding of Prabhupada's teachings, the message of the founder Acharya, which is the message of the previous Acharyas, in very simple form, with a particular mood. If ISKCON is going to continue, that's a must. And I'm placing a responsibility on all of you. Please, take it seriously to understand the message of Prabhupada's books. Why? To make sure that the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will go on after the Prabhupada disciples are gone. Say it the opposite. If you want to make sure that ISKCON doesn't continue, don't carefully study Prabhupada's book, because it's sure it'll happen. It'll disintegrate. It'll break into whatever you want to call it. Schisms, and there's language for this. This has been studied by different groups of devotees. I'm just sharing a distilled version. It's an appeal. Please. Many of you are already doing it. Fantastic. And continue and continue and continue, because that's going to not only maintain the family business, but maintain the values of the family. Western culture, family values. traditional culture is very important. It's exactly the question that Krishna asked Nanda Maharaj when he saw the yajna arrangements for Indra. He asked, is this enjoined by the Vedas or is this a family tradition? Doesn't mean if it's a family tradition then scrap it. But one is a must and the other is very important. Family values are very important. And especially with spiritual teachings, understanding the message and the mood of the founder Acharya is very important. So that's the second point. Then the third point is the relationships amongst one another. Something that's unwholesome is groupism of any kind. A very easy groupism to fall into is guru groupism. Consider it, poison with a big skull and crossbones on the bottle and don't drink any. It's poison. Rather, in the family, there's aunts and uncles and different emphasis and different moods. Even amongst ourselves as individuals, it's not a problem. It's not more than not a problem. It makes everything beautiful. Prabhupada's example, supposing you have a flower vase, there by Prabhupada's Vyasa, and it's only one flower of one color, as opposed to a variety of flowers with different colors and different fragrances and even greens and soft blue and red and yellow, and it adds to the beauty of the flower vase. Similarly, diversity is fantastic. Groupism is not fantastic. It will tear at the fabric of ISKCON. So avoid that kind of thing and center your attention on what you find in Prabhupada's books and other instructions, practical instructions, how to carry forward his mission. And one last thing, this thing of individual caring. I remember very clearly a question that was asked when these events, the Vyasa Puja events, were held in Brooklyn. And a question was asked, we don't get as much association as we used to because you're traveling so much, what to do? Without naming the name. I feel that from my side. At the same time, two things. My service is being demanded in so many different places. Note, to some extent, I decide yes and no to different services, but my service is being requested or demanded in different places. And, very important, I feel it's very important for the family dimension of the Hare Krishna movement to have its oxygen or its air and light and place to grow, because at some point in time each one of us is not going to be around anymore. And what's going to be in place to maintain all that? Whatever has grown from just giving personal association. Therefore, training others to train others. Training others to be caregivers and spiritual guides to others. However, it may not be perfectly performed. Not just the kind of trial and error and people become victims of the error or something like that. But to train and guide persons how to take care of others. And then supporting those relationships, because that's what families do. And then somebody in the family may have to go and tap another family member on the shoulder and say, let's have a little discussion over here about something. And we can address that something so that they can do their service to the spiritual family better. Or formal training, where skills are learned to how to very important. Education and training, and the relationships that come from education and training, and respecting those relationships from whatever your position is, supporting and respecting those relationships, that makes the family strong, makes the International Society for Krishna Consciousness strong. And I think I'll just say only one more thing, and that's really appreciated Krishna Nandini's presentation. Some of you attended the Memorial Weekend event. It's the Petals of ISKCON. I even saw somebody wearing one of those sweatshirts the other day that you made for the Petals of ISKCON. Govindacharan from Gita Nagari. It's cold out, so it's sweatshirt time. Krishna Nandini, besides the gift that Krishna has given her to help wholesome families, she had this little slogan: strong families, strong society, or something like. Was that the slogan? Strong marriages, strong. Okay, so he just said it over and over again into the microphone loud, and I can't do it now. Healthy marriages, strong ISKCON, something like that. She believes it, and there's a good reason to believe it, because so many persons are in family life, so strong marriages, healthy ISKCON. So devotees that have such skills, devotees should learn those skills from them, and other skills, because it's part of our family business too. Those that started their Krishna consciousness, while Dravida was here, we were having another discussion on this topic that I've had with some other God brothers. When we started Krishna consciousness, there wasn't any such thing as congregation. Imagine that. It just didn't exist. It wasn't even notional. It was in the temple. And if you weren't in the temple, they had another word. It wasn't nice. It was called fringies. But there was value in that. We got, a lot of roughness, and our rough edges got softened, and training. So many persons that practice Krishna consciousness today haven't had that. They didn't have boot camp. They just joined the army without boot camp. And then, had to learn the hard way of how to deal with this kind of person and that kind of person, and whoa, and not easy. Therefore, all the more emphasis on training and education, and seeing one another, just like the scripture says, as spirit soul. Yet you have to come to the spiritual platform in order to continue peacefully in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, you'll go away. Or just do something on your own somewhere. That's not really what our founder Acharya wanted for us. And it's not going to help our accelerate our progress and our ability to help others progress also. So Again, emphasis on training and education in its various dimensions. Not only the scriptural part, but these other healthy families, strong ISKCON. Say it again.
Healthy marriages, happy families, strong ISKCON.
Say it again.
Healthy marriages, happy families, strong ISKCON.
Okay. Okay, there's my few words.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Maharaj, please let us know how we may serve you, because I feel guilty because I know you have lost your voice and I'll have to ask you to keep coming and speaking something. So prasadam will be ready ahead of time, and whichever way you want to direct us, please let us know. So now I would like to request Bhaktin Kalyani and Bhaktin Amalini Radha to please present the Vyasa Puja book to Maharaj. I would like to request Maharaj to please read his offering to Srila Prabhupada.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Anjana Salakaya Chakshudamidhitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namani. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Satari Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Yat Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. My dear and most respected spiritual master and eternal Father, please accept my most humble and respectful obeisances in the dust of your most merciful lotus feet. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Service to you, Srila Prabhupada, is our life and soul. Though we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of ISKCON through abundant festivals and events all this year, a milestone that in itself is a great tribute to your vision and your spiritual potency, attesting to the fact that a worldwide Sangha of Vaishnavas can thrive in a cohesive organization even decades after your physical departure. Naturally, a thoughtful person looks forward, considering what elements must be in place, strengthened, and developed to ensure the organization's well-being for the next 50 years. Srila Prabhupada, you indicated several key elements necessary for ISKCON to flourish, including, quote, intelligence and organization, strictly following core spiritual standards and practices, carefully reading and studying your books, as well as broadly distributing them, establishing the role of the GBC as the ultimate managing authority, and unity in diversity. Quote, if we keep Krishna in the center, then there will be agreement in varieties. This is called unity in diversity. I am therefore suggesting that all our men meet in Mayapur every year during the birth anniversary of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. With all GBC and senior men present, we should discuss how to make unity in diversity. But if we fight on account of diversity, then it is simply the material platform. Please, try to maintain the philosophy of unity in diversity that will make our movement successful. Prabhupada wrote that letter in 1973. With all the diversity that existed during your time, Srila Prabhupada, you saw the need for fostering a healthy balance with unity. Inevitably, through the passage of time, diversity has increased and will continue to increase. Securing a platform of unity within a natural proliferation of diversity is essential to ensure that our third and fourth generations will be celebrating ISKCON 100. Interesting, the same message as I was speaking before. Systematic education and training among all committed members of ISKCON will be needed, particularly regarding the teachings you gave in your books, promoting and cultivating their core values within the members. These values include Samadarshana, Ahimsa, Icha, Priti, Amanitva, and Dharma, or equal vision, absence of cruelty, making proper choices, affection, humility, and nurturing right action. As well, education and training about the organizational structure you wanted for maintaining a worldwide society of Vaishnavas will likewise be increasingly required as we go forward in time. Encouraging individual initiative, springing from a spontaneous and volunteer spirit, is the art of management. At the same time, connecting with the core principles and structures of organization you gave us is likewise essential. Training leaders who can sustain such a vision while leading with the artful capability of balancing initiative with adherence to core principles will increasingly be required, all the while in pursuance of internalizing the broad and diverse teachings you gave us. Assisting in and ensuring the success of this awesome task is a challenge, demanding faith and courage. Seeking diversity without connecting with and fostering the core principles of unity will produce only chaos. That would not be the same ISKCON you entrusted us with. We pray that you mercifully empower us with the requisite purity and courage to succeed in carrying your worldwide society of Vaishnavas into the next generation. Bhayam dutiyam abhiniveshitakshyat ishadapetasya viparyayo smritihi. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. Tan mayayato bhuta abhajet tam bhaktyai yesham guru devatatma. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. Please accept my prostrated obeisances again and again. Please keep me eternally in your loving service. Aspiring for eternal service. Romapada Swami.